guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about foundations for pale skin. I made one of these videos probably about a year ago now. It was one of my first videos on this channel. And since then I found a few more products that I wanted to share with you. In my first video, which I'll link down below, I talked a lot about the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NW10, which was a newer shade then, and the Estee Lauder Double Wear in 1C0 Shell, and then the Illamasqua Skin Base in 115. I've still got two of those. The Illamasqua Skin Base didn't work for me. You can watch that video and find out why, but it is still a great shade for people with very, very fair skin. I will leave a link in the description bar below for the previous foundations pale skin video. I will warn you, it was filmed on my iPhone, I believe, and the lighting isn't very good, so it's not the best quality, but you can see my thoughts about those foundations there. I am going to show you the MAC Studio Fix and the Estee Lauder again, but I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail, and also I want to keep them out for comparing them with some of the other foundations. If you have watched my last video, you'll know that I've talked about how over the years I didn't really find any drugstore, chemist, pharmacy style lower budget foundations that suited my complexion very well. But I have gone out and done a bit more research, and I have noticed in recent years drugstore brands and higher end brands are starting to cater towards more fairer and deeper complexions, and I do feel like these are the two complexions that seem to get left out quite a bit. So I have 6 foundations to show you today. 3 are drugstore and 3 are higher end brands. And basically what I'll do is just give you my overall thoughts on them, how long wearing they are, whether they're a good shade match or not, and what kind of coverage they are as well. Pretty much all of them do start from medium coverage. I do like a medium to fuller coverage foundation, so if that's not your thing, you might not like some of these products. Although you could mix some of these in with a moisturizer as well, just to make it a bit more of a lighter coverage or a tinted moisturizer style product. So to give you a bit of background about my skin, I'm definitely a drier skin in the autumn and winter. I tend to get very dry, flaky skin with not really any oil on it at all. When late spring and summer comes around, I do start to notice that I get a little bit oily in the T-zone. So I guess I'm more of a combination skin, but to be honest, I tend to try out foundations regardless of whether they're more targeted towards oilier skin or more targeted towards drier skin, because sometimes you'll be surprised at how well they work on your skin type anyway. I also have a very, very, very fair skin. I'm a MAC NW10, but my face is actually a lot darker than the rest of my body. It's very yellowy and olivey and almost like has quite a bit of discoloration as well. When I do go out and I get matched up, the people at the makeup stands would tend to match me up to my face, which would be an NC15, and then my neck would just look really, really orange, and I'd have to blend it out really, really well. So I tend to like to match up to the rest of my body because I just find it a lot easier. And I also slightly prefer going for either neutral or more pink foundations rather than the yellow tones, just because I find if they oxidize on me, they can look really, really orange towards the end of the day, and it's just not very flattering on my skin. Of course, 2 of my all-time favorite foundations are the MAC Studio Fix, and this is the NW10, and I spoke about this in my first foundation for pale skin video. Lovely foundation, medium to full coverage, gives I wouldn't say it's totally matte, it gives like a demi-matte finish, almost like a satin finish. But for me, this lasts all day on my skin up until I take it off. Some people say it breaks them out. I've never had that problem with it myself. And to me, this has more of a pinky peachy tone to it, rather than the NC15, which is a very yellow foundation. And then the other foundation, if you've been watching my videos and following me, you'll know that this is my favourite foundation of all time, is the Estee Lauder Double Wear, and this is in 1C0 Shell. And again, this is a higher end foundation. I believe it's £30 now, it's really gone up in price. The bottle is absolutely beautiful. And like I say in my previous video, this is extremely full coverage, extremely matte. It's going to cover everything. You really don't need much at all. A little will take you a long way. And it's quite a thick consistency, but not majorly thick. I think the old formula for me used to be thicker in my eyes. And again, this would be very well suited to people with pink undertones. I did say in my previous video, and I will say again, it is slightly too dark for me. So it does look slightly pink on the neck, but it's nothing I can't blend out and it looks fine. If they did come out with something a teeny bit lighter, I would be happy with that. But at the end of the day, this is an amazing foundation. And it's one of those foundations that if you come home at the end of the night and you look in the mirror, this foundation is going to look just as good as when you first applied it. It really is that good. it just lasts forever. It lasts until you take it off. Again, I don't want to go into these two too much because I did bring these up in my last video. So now we're going to move on to some other foundations that you might have seen me using throughout the last year since that video was made, and I'm just going to talk you through some of those. So firstly, we'll start with this one, and this is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Weightless Ultra Definition Liquid Makeup. And this is the last foundation of the more expensive brands that I'm going to show you. This is an absolutely stunning foundation. Again, I have done a review on this, I'll link that down below as well. But it is beautiful. So shade wise, this is a bit dark for me. It could be lighter, and it does seem to dry down slightly to orange for my skin, but it's nothing I can't fix with my NW10 Studio Fix powder from MAC, which is also a foundation, but I just like to use it lightly to set my makeup because I find that it helps my makeup to last longer. It's a powder foundation, and that powder is lighter than this. I just feel like it brings down that yellowness to it so that it suits my skin tone better. Of course, you can mix it with a white foundation to bring that tone down, or even a product like Vegetilian. I know do a product that you can mix in with a foundation and make it lighter to suit your skin tone. So shade wise, it isn't perfect. This is in the colour 0.5, and this is the lightest shade that Urban Decay do. So if they came out with something a little bit lighter, I think it would be perfect shade wise. Consistency wise, this is extremely liquidy. You can see it just falling down my hand there. So it is an extremely thin liquidy consistency, but this just melts into your skin beautifully, and it gives a medium coverage, which I was worried because, like I said, I like medium to fuller coverage foundations. When you see a foundation that says Naked Skin, you really think this is going to be quite a light coverage. The people who do like their lighter coverage, I would just like you to be aware that this is more of a medium coverage foundation, but it does melt into the skin, and it does look like your skin but better as well. And it is buildable. It blends out beautifully, it builds up beautifully, it applies beautifully with a beauty blender, a buffing brush, a stippling brush. I've used so many different tools with this, and I've got pretty much the same outcome, and it just looks beautiful, skin-like and airbrushed. And if you don't like the feeling of a heavy foundation such as the Estee Lauder foundation, this one might be for you. That's the Urban Decay Naked Skin foundation. The next two foundations are budget-friendly foundations, and this first one I'm going to show you is the L'Oreal True Match foundation. And again, I would say this would suit people with pink undertones quite nicely. This one suits my skin tone pretty much perfectly, a tiny bit darker, but not really anything that you can notice unless you're really close up and I hadn't blended it very well. But I really love the coverage this gives. Again, this is quite a liquidy formula, quite similar to that of the Urban Decay Naked Foundation. And once again, it is a medium to full coverage foundation. It does have an SPF of 17 in here. The MAC is SPF 15, and then Estee Lauder is SPF 10. This has some claims on the back here. It says micro mineral pigments perfectly match your skin tone. In 2 weeks, skin feels smoother, looks healthier and more even, and the appearance of skin quality is improved. A beautiful, flawless looking complexion, your skin only better. I'm not necessarily sure about the first claims. I never really found that my skin looked or felt smoother after using this foundation after 2 weeks, but it does give a really beautiful medium to full coverage. And once again, it can give you that your skin but better look as well. With a medium coverage, it does look like your skin but better. I personally like applying this foundation with either the Sigma F80 brush, so it's a flat top kabuki. I'm really sorry, my brushes need cleaning. I'm going to be doing that today. But this is the Sigma F80, and it's just a really dense buffing brush. Or another dense buffing brush that I like to use is the Real Techniques buffing brush. I feel like these really work this foundation into the skin and just make it look absolutely flawless. Again, I would say this is definitely more suited to those of you with pink undertones, but for a drugstore brand, this is a really beautiful foundation, so I definitely would recommend you try this. I would say this one in particular lasts on me for about 8 to 9 hours, so a full working day before I really need to touch it up because it's either faded or maybe it's come off slightly around my nose area and my chin. The other thing I would say with this is I tend to steer clear of it in the summer months. I don't find that it lasts as long on me in the summer months. I tend to like going more towards my Estee Lauder style foundation just because I do tend to get an ever so slightly oily T-zone. So I prefer to use this especially in the autumn and winter time and the early springtime as well. The next foundation I have is the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-Hour Foundation. And this is in 010 Light Porcelain, which is a Rimmel's palest shade. And again, This is more suited towards people with pink undertones. And the consistency of this reminds me of the MAC Studio Fix. It's not super thin and liquidy, but it's not really thick either. And the little blurb on here says, sweat, heat, humidity and transfer proof for up to 25 hours, enriched with a revitalizing mineral complex and moisturizing aqua primer. Skin feels energized and hydrated all day. Firstly, with this foundation, I just want to address something. Forget that it says 25-hour wear on it. So many companies are coming out these days with 25-hour, 48-hour, 1-year wear foundations. And to be honest, rarely any of them last that long. And also, I don't really know many people that want to wear their foundation for 25 hours. But I think the overall message they're trying to get across to us is it's a long-wearing foundation. The only foundation that I've tried that lasts 25 hours is the Estee Lauder foundation. Like I said, it lasts until you take it off. It's an incredible, incredible foundation. The Rimmel Lasting Finish foundation, once again, I would say this lasts a good 9 hours before it starts to fade on me. It doesn't go patchy, but it just starts to fade a little bit. You can just start to see my skin and my blemishes starting to come through. For me personally, I haven't found this to be extremely long wearing. It is very nicely suited to those people with pink undertones. It's great they come out with a light porcelain because their porcelain to me is extremely dark. I prefer to apply this with a either my Sigma F80 or a beauty blender. I do find I have to work this into my skin a little bit more than the other foundations that I've mentioned, but it's not too much of a hassle for me, and I really do like the way this looks on the skin once applied. Again, for me, this gives off more of a satin / demi matte finish. If you wanted it to be fully matte, then you could also apply a mattifying powder on top, but it is a really nice foundation. It's probably my least favourite foundation out of the bunch, just because I find you do have to work that a little bit harder, and I also find that if my skin is quite dry, then this is not the best foundation to turn to because it shows off all my dry patches and it just doesn't tend to blend into my skin very nicely. So this is actually quite a nice foundation to use around the summertime for me. And then last but not least, we have the Revlon Colorstay 24-hour wear foundation. So this says it wears for up to 24 hours and it gives you a flawless look and a lightweight feel. I've had this foundation for quite a while. I did not like this when I first purchased it. I actually wanted to purchase the version for drier skin because they have two versions of this. This one is for combination / oily skin, and I wanted to get the one for drier skin, but when I went into the shop, all of the foundations look really separated. So I went for the one for the oily combination skin. I applied this in so many different ways. I tried it with my buffing brushes, with stippling brushes, with my fingers, everything. I don't usually like applying with my fingers, but I tried so many different ways to apply this to make it blend into my skin nicely, and nothing worked. So this sat in my drawer for months, up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then I decided that I was going to get it out again and give it another try, but this time I would apply it with my beauty blender. And oh my goodness, this applies so beautifully with the beauty blender. It's now gone from being one of my most hated foundations to one of my most favourite foundations, which is why I tend not to throw a foundation out straight away. Sometimes certain foundations need to be applied in certain ways. Again, great for people with pink undertones. Pretty much all of these foundations are great for people with pink undertones. And that's it there. And this matches my skin beautifully, and it is in the colour 1110 Ivory. I am thinking about going out and buying the Revlon Colorstay for dry skin because maybe it just needs a bit of a shake up and that's why it looks a bit weird in the bottle, but I do really like this one. I know somebody mentioned on my channel, and I know a lot of people have mentioned on YouTube in the past, that a lot of people think this is a great dupe for the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. Now it is very similar in that it is very matte, it is a very full coverage foundation. This one's actually a lot thicker than the Estee Lauder. I mean, this takes me, I really have to violently shake this to get any product out because it is extremely thick. It doesn't have a pump. And I don't know if that's because it is so thick that it wouldn't work with a pump or what, but it is extremely hard at times to get this out of the bottle. So it is a lot thicker than the Estee Lauder foundation. Unlike the Estee Lauder, which works really nicely with a beauty blender, buffing brush, stippling brush, so many different methods and ways to apply this. This one only works really well for me when using the beauty blender, and once again, you don't even need to try. But with any other form of application for me, this doesn't apply to my skin very nicely. It can go on very cakey, it can enhance dry patches, it can enhance any fine lines. It just doesn't seem to work with any other methods of application at all for me. It is a great dupe for the Estee Lauder in terms that it is an extremely matte shade. but it is way more affordable than the Estee Lauder foundation. Again, this has a claim that it's 24-hour wearing. This would last about 12 hours on me, I'd say, before it started fading. I also find that this actually transfers quite badly onto any clothes. Sam came in yesterday and I was wearing this and I hugged him and it just immediately transferred onto his clothes. So that's just something else to be aware of with this foundation. But this has definitely become one of my favourite foundations to use. And I'm pretty impressed with that considering how much I despised it at first. So if you do like that full coverage matte look, then definitely go and check this one out. So those are my 6 recommendations for those of you with pale skin. Anyway guys, I hope this video has helped you in some kind of way, and vice versa. If you have any recommendations for me, please feel free to comment below and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.